It's a strange game we play. We spend our lives trying to repair ourselves, as if we were somehow damaged, forever polishing the mask we show the world. And yet, if you look closely at the great figures of history, the ones who actually changed things, who actually lived, you'll notice something peculiar. They were all cracked, every single one of them, broken in some way. And it wasn't despite their brokenness that they became who they were. It was because of it. Now, this goes against everything we've been taught, doesn't it? We're told to hide our wounds, to cover our scars, to pretend that we have it all together. But what if I told you that your very brokenness, the thing you're most ashamed of, is precisely what the universe needs from you? What if the crack in your character is not a flaw, but a feature? Let me be very clear about something from the start. When I say damaged, I'm not talking about someone who is careless or irresponsible, or who uses their pain as an excuse. No. I'm talking about the person who has been to the edge, who has looked into the darkness of their own soul and come back trembling. I'm talking about the person who knows, really knows, that they are not self-sufficient, that they cannot do this thing called life on their own. These are the people the universe chooses, not because they are weak, but because they are awake. You see, the universe has no use for the self-made man. That fellow who struts around, believing he pulled himself up by his own bootstraps, who thinks his success is entirely his own doing. He's a closed system. There's no space for anything greater to work through him, because he's already filled to the brim with himself. But the damaged person, the broken one, they have cracks, and through those cracks, light gets in. Think about water for a moment. If you have a perfectly sealed container, water cannot enter. But if there's a crack, the tiniest opening, water finds its way in. It seeps through. It fills the space. This is how grace works. This is how the power of existence itself works. It cannot enter where there is no opening. And damage creates openings. Now, I want you to understand something very important here. Being damaged is not the same as being destroyed. A cup with a crack can still hold water. A window with a chip can still let in light. In fact, sometimes that chip creates the most beautiful patterns when the sun hits it just right. Your damage is like this. It doesn't disqualify you from being used by life. It qualifies you. Look at the great spiritual figures throughout history. Moses, they say, had a speech impediment. He could barely talk, and yet he was chosen to be the voice of God to his people. How absurd is that? The universe picks a man who cannot speak properly to deliver the most important message in history. Why? Because Moses knew he couldn't do it alone. He knew he needed help. He knew he was insufficient. And in that knowing, he became a perfect vessel. Or consider David, a small shepherd boy overlooked by his own family, considered too young, too weak, too insignificant. And yet it was precisely this David, this damaged goods in the eyes of society, who became the great king, because David never forgot where he came from. He never forgot his smallness. Even when he wore a crown, he remembered he was just a shepherd boy who the universe had picked up and used. The pattern is everywhere once you start looking for it. Paul, the great apostle, was a murderer. He hunted down and killed the very people whose cause he would later champion. Can you imagine the weight of that? The knowledge that you destroyed the lives of those you now claim to serve? And yet, it was this very guilt, this very awareness of his own capacity for evil, that made him such a powerful teacher. He knew he was saved not by his own goodness, but by something far beyond himself. Here's what happens when you're damaged. You lose the illusion of control. You realize you're not running the show. Most people walk through life believing they're in charge, that if they just work hard enough, plan well enough, be good enough, everything will turn out fine. But the damaged person knows better. They've seen how quickly everything can fall apart. They've felt the ground give way beneath their feet. And in that terrible moment of falling, they learn something the comfortable never learn. They learn to trust what catches them. This is why the universe chooses damaged people, because they've learned to let go. They've learned to relax into life rather than trying to grip it with white knuckles. Have you ever tried to float in water? If you tense up, if you try to control every movement, you sink. But if you relax, if you trust the water, it holds you. Life is exactly like this. The damaged person has learned to float. Now let me tell you what damage really is. It's not the thing that happened to you. It's not the addiction, the abuse, the failure, the loss. Those are just events. Damage is what happens inside you when you finally admit that those events changed you, that you're not the same person you were before, that you cannot go back to who you were. This admission, this acknowledgement of change, this is what creates the crack through which light enters. Most people, when something terrible happens, they spend all their energy trying to go back to normal. They want to return to who they were before. But the damaged person realizes there is no going back. The old self is gone. And in the space where the old self used to be, something new can grow. Something that wasn't possible before. This is not recovery. This is transformation. And transformation is what the universe is after. You know what's fascinating? The people who have never been broken often have the hardest time with life. They're brittle. When something difficult comes along, they shatter because they've never learned to bend. But the person who has already been broken, who has already been bent out of shape, they have a kind of flexibility. They can move with life's changes rather than resisting them. They're like old wood that has weathered many storms. Strong not because it's rigid, but because it knows how to sway. I want to tell you about something that happens when you accept your damage. You become humble. You realize you're not the star of the show. You're not even the director. You're just one small part of an enormous production. And this realization, far from being depressing, is actually tremendously liberating. Because when you know you're not in charge, you can stop trying to control everything. You can stop exhausting yourself trying to manage every outcome. You can simply do your part and let the rest unfold as it will. This is what the ancient Chinese called Wu Wei, effortless action. Not doing nothing, but doing without straining, working without forcing. And you can only do this when you've been humbled by your own limitations. The proud man, the one who thinks he has it all together, he's always fighting. Fighting against circumstances, fighting against other people, fighting against life itself. He's in a constant state of resistance. But resistance is exhausting. The damaged person has learned that resistance is futile, not in a defeatist way, but in a deeply accepting way. They've learned to work with life rather than against it. Here's something else that happens when you're damaged. You develop compassion, real compassion, not the fake kind where you look down on others and feel sorry for them, but the kind where you recognize yourself in everyone you meet, because you know what it's like to struggle, to fail, to be at the end of your rope. You know what it's like to need help. And this knowing makes you gentle with others in a way that the undamaged can never be. The person who has never really suffered often judges those who are suffering. They think, why don't they just pull themselves together? Why don't they just try harder? But the damaged person knows it's not that simple. They know that sometimes trying harder is exactly the wrong thing to do. Sometimes you have to stop trying and simply surrender. And this knowledge, born of personal experience, makes them able to help others in ways the comfortable never could. Now, I need to say something about what damage is not. Damage is not an excuse. It's not a reason to give up, or to wallow in self-pity, or to treat others badly. If your damage has made you bitter, resentful, cruel, then you've missed the lesson. You've taken your pain and turned it inward or outward as poison, rather than allowing it to crack you open. The difference between the person the universe can use and the person it cannot is this. One person looks at their damage and says, "Why me? This is unfair. I am cursed." The other person looks at their damage and says, "What is this trying to teach me? How is this making me more human? What am I supposed to learn from this?" Both are damaged, but only one is becoming wise. There's a story I love about a man who goes to see a teacher. He says, "Master, I have so many problems. I am anxious. I am depressed. I have addictions. I have failed at everything I've tried. How can I possibly be of any use?" And the teacher says, "You have just listed your qualifications." The man is confused. And the teacher explains, "Your anxiety has taught you that life is uncertain. Your depression has taught you that happiness cannot be forced. Your addictions have taught you that you need help. Your failures have taught you humility. These are not disqualifications. These are your credentials. This is what I mean when I say the universe chooses damaged people. It's not that it looks for people who are broken and says, 'Oh, let me use them.' It's that brokenness creates the conditions necessary for something greater to work through you. It's like how a seed must break open before it can become a plant. The seed that stays intact, perfectly sealed, perfect in its seedness, will never grow. And what emerges from that crack is not the old you perfectly restored. It's something entirely new. Something that was always waiting inside you, but could never come out, because the shell was too hard. Now with the shell cracked, it can finally emerge. Let me tell you what I've observed. The people who change the world are never the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who struggled, who failed, who fell down and got back up so many times they lost count. Why? Because struggle teaches you things that comfort never can. It teaches you that you're stronger than you thought. It teaches you that you can survive what you thought would destroy you. It teaches you that there's something in you, or working through you, that is greater than your circumstances. And here's the beautiful part. Once you've learned this, once you've really learned it in your bones, you become fearless. Not fearless in the sense that you're never afraid, but fearless in the sense that you know fear is just a feeling, and feeling's past. You know that even if the worst happens, you'll be okay, because you've already survived the worst, or something close to it, and you're still here. This is the great secret of damaged people. Free to take risks, free to speak truth, free to love without holding back, because they know that holding back doesn't protect you anyway. I want you to think about this for a moment. Who would you rather learn from? Someone who has never failed, who has always succeeded at everything they tried, who has never known real suffering, or someone who has fallen flat on their face, who has known despair, who has clawed their way back from the edge. The first person can tell you about success, but the second person can tell you about life. The universe chooses damaged people because they have wisdom that the comfortable don't have. They've been refined by fire. They've had the unnecessary burned away. What remains is essential, true, real. And this is what the universe needs. Not people who are perfect, but people who are real. Now here's where it gets really interesting. When you accept your damage, when you stop trying to hide it or fix it or pretend it's not there, something magical happens. Other people see it, and they recognize themselves in you. Your damage becomes a bridge, a way for others to cross from their isolation into connection, because everyone is damaged in some way. Everyone has wounds they're trying to hide. But when you stop hiding yours, you give others permission to stop hiding theirs. This is how healing happens, not through pretending to be whole, but through admitting you're broken. Not through presenting a perfect image, but through showing your scars, your willingness to be vulnerable, to be seen in your damage. This is what allows others to be vulnerable too. And in that mutual vulnerability, something beautiful happens. Connection. Real, deep, human connection. The universe doesn't choose damaged people to do its work. Despite their damage, it chooses them because of it. Because damage creates humility. Humility creates openness. Openness creates space. And in that space, something greater can work. Call it God, call it the universe, call it the power of life itself. Whatever you call it, it needs space to work. And damage creates that space. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm too broken to be of any use, I'm too damaged to matter, I've made too many mistakes, let me tell you something. You're exactly who the universe is looking for. Your brokenness is not a bug, it's a feature. Your damage is not a disqualification, it's your credential. Your wounds are not shameful secrets. They're badges of honor that say, I have lived, I have suffered, I have learned, and I am still here. The universe doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real ones. It doesn't need more people who have it all together. It needs more people who are willing to fall apart and be put back together in a new way. It doesn't need more people pretending to be strong. It needs more people who know they're weak and let something stronger work through them. This is the great paradox. Power is made perfect in weakness. Not despite weakness, but in it, through it, by means of it. The very thing you think disqualifies you is what qualifies you. The very wound you're trying to hide is the door through which light can enter. The very damage you're ashamed of is the crack through which grace flows. So stop trying to fix yourself. Stop trying to present a perfect image. Stop pretending you have it all together. Instead, be honest about your damage, acknowledge your brokenness, admit your need for help. And then, in that moment of honest vulnerability, you'll discover something amazing. You're not alone. You've never been alone. And the very damage you thought made you unusable is what makes you perfect for what the universe needs you to do. And the best vessels are the ones that have been broken and put back together. They're the ones that know they're just containers, not the thing contained. They're the ones that let light pass through them because they're full of cracks. And that light, that power, that grace, it shines all the brighter because of those cracks. So be damaged, be broken, be cracked open, and in your brokenness, let yourself be used, because that's what you're here for. Not to be perfect, but to be real. Not to have all the answers, but to be honest about the question. Not to be the light, but to let the light shine through you. And your damage